Countdown. Hello, I'm Willie Bragg. I'm here to discuss something that happened recently that came to my attention very recently. Very recently. But before I start, and I'm just borrowing this clip from Tim Black. He doesn't know who I am. But what he has to say right here speaks a million volumes up to a million. I mean, what he says here speaks volumes and is the absolute truth. So let me start with that.
Both parties suck, Johnson.
And I have never heard truer words being spoken. And anyway, I hope he doesn't mind. But what I have to say applies to that term. Both parties, in fact, suck. And they really do. And so, to further illustrate that, I'm going to let you know what happened recently. Joe Manchin, Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, endorsed Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Republican. Vice versa. Lisa Murkowski also endorsed Joe Manchin. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video real quick, and then I'll share a few words right afterwards. So hold tight. Okay, we're ready, right? Yeah.
Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia endorsed the re-election campaign of his Republican colleague Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska on Sunday, saying his loyalty goes beyond party lines. It doesn't matter if I'm a Democrat and they're a Republican, or vice versa, he said in a rare joint interview with Murkowski on CNN's State of the Union. It's hypocritical to basically work with a person day in and day out, and then when they're at cycle you're supposed to be against them just because they have an R or D by their name, he said. If these are good people I've worked with, we have accomplished a lot, why in the world wouldn't I want to work with them and continue to work with them? Murkowski, who is currently not facing a Democratic challenger, has been at odds with members of her own party. She is a longtime critic of former President Donald Trump and was one of 7 Republican senators who voted to convict him at his second impeachment trial in 2021. On Friday, she condemned the Republican National Committee's censure of 2 fellow GOP senators for participating in a House investigation into the January 6, 2021, Capitol riot. Trump, who has endorsed one of Murkowski's Republican opponents in her re-election bid, last year vowed to campaign against her, calling her a disloyal and very bad senator. I'm not here to be the representative of the Republican Party. I'm here to be the representative for Alaskan people. And I take that charge very, very seriously, Murkowski said Sunday when asked about how uncomfortable it can be to not follow party lines. Manchin, who has faced similar conflict with members of his own party, similarly said he puts his state's constituents before those in Washington. I'm not a Washington Democrat, I'm a good old West Virginia Democrat, who likes all my West Virginia Republicans, and I know that I have to have their input for us to get good outcomes for our West Virginia citizens we represent, he said. Murkowski said she would endorse Manchin if he decides to run for re-election in 2024. Though he has yet to announce a decision, Democrats have already suggested he could lose party endorsements over his refusal to endorse President Joe Biden's climate and social spending bill last year.
The silly music that was being played there speaks volumes too. That kind of circle jerk that took place, Joe Manchin endorsing. I wouldn't call it a circle jerk, but you know what I mean. The Joe Manchin endorsing Lisa Murkowski, and Lisa Murkowski returning the favor, endorsing Joe Manchin. I'm not really all that chummy about the idea. I'm not chummy when I see Democrats and Republicans fight each other over bullshits, and they use the culture war. Both of them use the culture war to divide us from real issues that are plaguing this country. But at the same time, we're supposed to be happy that two generic people from both parties are going to go and embrace each other. That's just as crappy as AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene, cat fighting with each other. You think I'm going to be happy that Joe Manchin and Lisa Murkowski decided to be chummy with each other? No, I really, I'm not happy with either situation, because I want what's best for the American people. And best for the American people does not mean a cat fight between two culture warriors from the opposite political end of the spectrum that don't focus on real issues, and two generic crusty old white people deciding that they like each other. It's not from each party. Does not give me warm fuzzies either. What gives me warm fuzzies or makes me feel good would be actual good policies for the American people. I care about policy more than anything else. And sometimes if it means fighting with the opposite party, so be it. Sometimes it means fighting with your own in your own party, be it. But you have to be for correct policies. And, the thing about it is that Joe Manchin and Lisa Murkowski are policies. When it comes to corporatism, they are terrible. They're terrible on defense issues. They're terrible, when it comes to healthcare. They're terrible on the Green New Deal. Why the fuck would I be happy about Lisa Murkowski and Joe Manchin liking each other and wanting to support each other? Oh, really? No, I don't give a damn about that. That brings me back to the days of that brings me right back to the days of the Bush-Cheney era. And people thought, oh yeah, Joe Lieberman of Connecticut and John McCain of Arizona, they're outside the box and they could just think outside the box, and they work together. They're basically the same person. Well, John McCain's no longer alive, but when he was alive, Joe Lieberman and John McCain were the same persons. I never liked Joe Lieberman and never liked John McCain. Fuck Joe Lieberman. Fuck the late John McCain. Fuck them both. Because I agree. Fuck them. So, they were on the same page on the Iraq war. They got blood on their hands. Joe Lieberman is a war criminal that's alive. John McCain is a war criminal that died. But they're both war criminals. Fuck them both. Yeah, they agree with each other on foreign policy. Now, you got, back during that same time period, you had Dennis Kucinich, who was a Democratic congressman from Ohio, and Ron Paul, who was a Republican congressman from Texas. Now, they worked together. Now, that's the kind of working together I'm fine with. Because both of them thought outside of the box of each party. Dennis Kucinich, during the times of Bill Clinton, and I will argue that we're still in that era where where the Democratic Party's been Reaganized and allowed to become America's second conservative party instead of a social democratic party. But Dennis Kucinich is a representation of that social democracy. Maybe not to the explicit level of someone like Bernie Sanders, but he was pretty much almost on policy, on par, about for the same damn things. And so, anti-war, as I said, when it comes to economics, pro-union, pro-single-payer health care, a civil libertarian who is who favors the legalization of marijuana, who is against the military-industrial complex, opposes capital punishment, all the things that I care about on the social issues, LGBTQ equality, you name it. Dennis Kucinich was always a wonderful member of Congress, and the U.S. House of Representatives is now at a loss with Dennis Kucinich gone. Now with Ron Paul, if I was to ever vote for a Republican, and I would, if you ever see me vote for a Republican, Ron Paul might be the Republican I could find myself voting for. And I say this disagreeing with a lot of issues with Ron Paul when it comes to economics and things like that. Mostly on economics, pretty much on economics. But he's a libertarian inside the Republican Party, and he favors the legalization of marijuana. He opposed war. He's against capital punishment. He supports LGBTQ equality. And he and Dennis Kucinich work closely together in Congress. Now, that's the kind of bipartisanship that I like. When people like Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul during the Bush-Cheney era, and still to some degree during the Obama years, have worked together because they wanted to fight against the bullshit that is business as usual in both parties. I always like Dennis Kucinich, still continue to do so. And I've always respected Ron Paul. You would never, 99% of the time, well, I'm saying that to be over the top, but 90% of the time, you would never hear me say anything negative about Ron Paul. I disagree with him on economics, and that's about it, really. Maybe there's a few social issues here and there, but the man, he's a good man. He may think I'm a piece of shit for being a socialist, and I don't care I don't care. Again, when it comes to policies that matter, he's there. Maybe not on economics, but on the other things that he's good on, kind of overlap with some of the things that I'm interested in, that I think this country will be a better country with regard to drug legalization, with regard to civil liberties, like doing away with the Patriot Act, getting us out of these neocon wars abroad. Ron Paul is absolutely wonderful. And in the 2008 primaries, I saw what the both Democrats and Republicans were doing, because while Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama wanted to have their cat and dog fight, the CNN were doing everything they could to not ask Dennis Kucinich any questions. They ignore him. They were doing to him what Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment did to Bernie Sanders in 2016, and what Barack Obama did to Bernie Sanders in 2020 in the media. And same thing with the media, MSNBC and CNN fucking Bernie Sanders over, both in 2016, 2020. That's what CNN were doing to Dennis Kucinich in 2008. Trying to ignore him. I saw that motherfucking Wolf Blitzer sitting there trying to ignore him like he was a non-entity. Well, same thing on the Republican side in the 2008 primaries. And in 2012, they did it to him again. They acted like Ron Paul was not a factor, that Ron Paul was to be ignored. He was to be disregarded. And I saw in 2008, I was just like, damn, Ron Paul is the Republicans' Dennis Kucinich. Looks like Dennis Kucinich is the Democrats' Ron Paul. And Dennis Kucinich in 2008 did say that if he got nominated for the Democratic nomination for president, that he would like to have Ron Paul as his running mate. And I would gladly vote for a Kucinich Paul ticket. I would have at the time. I still feel that way. I got nothing against Ron Paul. Good man, regardless. So, the thing about it is, I went and quoted I quoted earlier. Who did I quote? I quoted Tim Black. Well, I didn't quote Tim Black, but I referenced Tim Black in the video where he said both parties suck Johnson. And never truer words have been spoken. But, bipartisanship. You know that term. Why can't we be bipartisan? Well, Ron Placon, and some of you know who he is. Ron Placon once said, bipartisanship usually means that congressional Republicans come up with a very, very, very bad idea, and Democrats usually are just wanting to go and work with the Republicans on those bad ideas. I call it just another typical Tuesday myself, but that's what's going on there. So anyway, suffice to say that when it comes to the media, and the chummy feelings, I would never want to see return to this again. I would never want to see a return to someone like Sean Hannity and Alan Combs. If you don't remember Alan Combs was the co-host of Hannity and Combs on Fox News. And fair and balanced on Fox News means that when they have a Democrat on the show, they're usually a squirrely doormat that sits there and allows the Republican hosts to talk shit and talk down to them. So, and usually the Democrat usually apologizes for being a Democrat. People like Juan Williams, for example. I mean, another doormat from Fox News. So, but nobody ever get upset by that scenario. But what would they get upset over? And this is, I'm going to talk about people on my side of the fence. Some of them. They'll get mad that, oh my God, Jimmy Dore ended up being on Tucker Carlson. Yeah, we don't need to be on Tucker Carlson, let alone Fox News. Well, the problem with that is it makes the left look like they're weak and they're not willing to take on people who disagrees with them. And listen, I mean, with all of Tucker Carlson's faults, and he's got many, Tucker Carlson is not incorrect when it comes to foreign interventionist wars. He opposes the neocons. That should be a good thing. Jimmy Dore convinced him that Julian Assange should be a free man. And he does allow Jimmy Dore to go on the show making a positive case for Medicare for all, for example. Something that Tucker Carlson is not even in favor of currently, and I don't ever think he will be in favor of. But that is to his credit. As much criticism as I can provide with other lefties when it comes to Tucker Carlson, come on now. At least he will allow a pro-Medicare for all voice on his show. Sean Hannity wouldn't. You bet that Mark Levin wouldn't. And Mark Levin is 1 million times worse than Tucker Carlson. So, say that without apology, really. But getting back to working together. Now, Lisa Murkowski and Joe Manchin wants to work together. I don't take any comfort in that. But look what happens these days. Bernie Sanders and Rand Paul, another, the son of Ron Paul. Bernie Sanders, the Dennis Kucinich today, but in the U.S. Senate. Rand Paul, the Ron Paul of today, but in the U.S. Senate. My goodness, what could the fiery socialist from Vermont and the libertarian from Kentucky, what in the world could they have in common? Well, both Sanders and Paul believes that the United States should not have any business selling arms to Saudi Arabia, which is one of the biggest sponsor of terrorism against the West in the world. We shouldn't be selling arms to them, and those arms should not be going into Yemen to commit a genocide. I talked about the genocide of the Uyghurs in China. That's not non-existent, but people want to go and start a war with China over it, but they don't want to go and put a stop to the genocide that's going on in Yemen by the Saudi Arabian government. And it's not that Bernie Sanders nor Ron Paul wants to be interventionist about it. Rand Paul wants to be interventionist about it, but what they want to do is they want the United States to stop enabling terrorism against the West. And the United States enables terrorism against the West. During the Trump years, you had John Bolton calling for the U.S. to side with Al Qaeda to bring down Bashir al-Assad's government. A government that protects Christians, a government that protects Jews, a government that protects factioning Muslims from killing each other. And you go bring down Bashir al-Assad's government, I do not think that a so-called moderate government will be filling in. You're going to have something along the lines of an ISIS-style state or something along those lines. And I certainly think that's a worse scenario than Bashir al-Assad. Give me Bashir al-Assad any day, honestly. But it doesn't mean I like Bashir al-Assad. I'm just saying that that's certainly a better situation currently than what could take place. And the United States never learned their lessons. Well, Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders, in spite of their ideological differences, sees that there needs to be a change in foreign policy, and both are pretty consistent against the warmongering nature of each of the parties. The warmongering Republicans and the Democrats who warmonger too. So both parties warmonger, and Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders wants to work with each other, and there are other Democrats and Republicans that they're fighting against the mainstream neocon element of both parties. And so this is the kind of bipartisanship one should embrace. And I just wanted to go and say that. And, as I said, I mean, there are things about Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin votes with the Republicans, during the Trump years, voted with Trump 60% of the time or more. And Ben Shapiro called Joe Manchin his favorite Democrat. And the irony is that if Ben Shapiro thinks that Joe Manchin is his favorite Democrat, then that means Joe Manchin is shit. Honestly. And honestly, if he's going to consider Joe Manchin his favorite Democrat, he should also consider Joe Biden his favorite Democrat. He should also consider Hillary Clinton his favorite Democrat, because they're not that far apart from Joe Manchin. Make no mistake about it. They'll give a little bit of lip service to maybe the woke crowd, but that's about it. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, comment anyway. We will have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are the muckrakers of our time. Hit that subscribe button and help this channel grow, and let's fight against this algorithm shadow banning by YouTube. Can we do that, please? And until next time, I want you to keep that red flag flying high and proud. And I want you to engage in class warfare, class struggle all the way. And until next time, remember this. We are all Julian Assange. Take care.
everybody.